Welcome to the world of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening. Craig Foster stared at the holographic notification floating above his desk, its soft blue glow reflecting off his untouched morning coffee. His Uncle Marcus was dead. The message blinked with legal jargon about inheritance proceedings, but one detail caught his eye: the old Victorian mansion on the outskirts of New Seattle. "You've got to be kidding me," he muttered, running a hand through his disheveled dark hair. The quantum analysis reports on his desktop dimmed automatically, sensing his attention shift. The last time he'd seen Uncle Marcus was 15 years ago, when Craig was still a teenager. The old man had been eccentric even then, rambling about cosmic alignments and dimensional barriers while tinkering with strange devices in his workshop. The family had written him off as harmless but unstable. Now he'd left Craig his house. The law firm's AI assistant chimed in through his neural interface. "Mr. Foster, would you like to schedule the property inspection for this afternoon? The house's systems are unusual. Manual verification is required." Craig glanced at his work queue. Another day of analyzing probability vectors for corporate clients. "Yeah, schedule it. I could use a break from this anyway." 3 hours later, his autocab wound through the preserved historical district where modern buildings gave way to restored Victorian-era homes. The autumn rain created a constant static against the cab's dome as it pulled up to the address. The house loomed before him, a 3-story monster of weathered wood and elaborate trim work. Despite the dreary weather, something about the place seemed to glow from within, a subtle luminescence that made his eyes strain to focus. The front garden was immaculate, with roses blooming out of season. "Property registration confirmed. Welcome home, Mr. Foster," the house's AI greeted as he approached the front steps. The door swung open silently. The foyer was warm and dimly lit by what appeared to be gas lamps, though Craig couldn't spot any actual flames. The air smelled of old books and something else, a sweet, alien scent he couldn't place. His footsteps echoed on hardwood floors that seemed to absorb and reflect light in impossible ways. "Hello, Craig Foster." He spun around. A woman stood at the top of the curved staircase, if she could be called just a woman. Her skin was a deep jade green that seemed to shimmer in the strange light. Her features were striking, almost too perfect, with eyes that held an inner luminescence. She wore what appeared to be a modernized Victorian dress, form-fitting but elegant. "I am Nana," she said, descending the stairs with fluid grace. "I serve as keeper of this house." Her voice carried an accent he couldn't place, musical and slightly archaic. "You're not human," Craig managed, immediately feeling foolish for stating the obvious. A smile played at the corners of her mouth. How very observant. She reached the bottom of the stairs and gave a small curtsy. "Did your uncle never mention me?" "Uncle Marcus didn't mention much of anything to anyone," Craig said. "He wasn't exactly close with the family." "Ah, yes, Marcus was rather protective of his secrets." Nana moved closer, and Craig caught that strange, sweet scent again. "But now you're here, and there's so much to discuss." Her proximity made him acutely aware of how attractive she was, despite, or perhaps because of, her alien nature. He took a step back, trying to gather his thoughts. "Look, I just came to inspect the property. I'm not sure what's going on here, but—" "Oh, but you are sure of something," Nana interrupted, her luminescent eyes studying him intently. "You can feel it, can't you? The house, the way it bends reality around itself." Craig wanted to deny it, but he couldn't. The interior dimension seemed wrong somehow, spaces extending where they shouldn't. Shadows moved at the corners of his vision, and the walls themselves appeared to pulse with a subtle rhythm. "What is this place?" he asked. "What are you?" Nana's smile widened, revealing teeth that were just a bit too sharp to be human. Those are excellent questions, Craig Foster, but perhaps we should start with a tour? After all, she gestured to the surrounding house. This is your inheritance, and I. She stepped closer again, her voice dropping to a near whisper. I am part of that inheritance. Craig followed Nana through the house, trying to focus on her words rather than the way she moved. The tour felt like walking through an Escher painting, rooms connected in ways that defied Euclidean geometry, and staircases seemed to lead both up and down simultaneously. The house has been in your family's possession for 7 generations, Nana explained, leading him into what appeared to be a library. Though possession might not be the correct term. Books lined the walls from floor to ceiling, their spines adorned with scripts he didn't recognize. A holographic star chart hung in the center of the room, displaying constellations he'd never seen. What would be the correct term? Craig asked, watching as Nana traced her fingers along the spines of several ancient volumes. Partnership, perhaps, or symbiosis. She turned to face him, leaning against a bookshelf with casual grace. I am bound to this house by contract and tradition. Each generation of your family has served as, let's say, custodian of this arrangement. Craig's attention was drawn to a subtle pulsing light behind the walls. And what exactly is this arrangement? I maintain the house and its functions. In return. She paused, her luminescent eyes meeting his. Well, there are certain obligations, responsibilities that must be fulfilled. Before Craig could press for details, a deep, thrumming sound reverberated through the building. The lights flickered, and for a moment he could have sworn he saw stars through the ceiling. The house is settling, Nana said quickly. Too quickly. It's adjusting to your presence. Craig moved to Uncle Marcus's study, drawn by a soft blue glow emanating from beneath the door. Inside, holographic displays covered every surface, showing complex mathematical formulae and diagrams he didn't understand. At the center of the room stood a pedestal supporting what looked like a crystal sphere, but its surface rippled like liquid. What was my uncle working on? He asked, reaching toward the sphere. Nana's hand caught his wrist, her touch cool but not unpleasant. Careful. Some things here are sensitive. She released him but stayed close. Marcus was studying what he called the Nexus Protocol. He believed he'd discovered connections between different realities. Craig noticed a journal on the desk, its pages covered in his uncle's cramped handwriting. Random phrases jumped out: convergence points, stellar alignments, keeper bloodlines. You're not just a housekeeper, are you? He asked, turning to face Nana. She smiled that enigmatic smile again. I am many things, Craig Foster, a keeper of secrets, a guardian of thresholds. She stepped closer, close enough that he could see faint patterns swirling beneath her jade skin. And now, I am yours. The way she said it sent a shiver down his spine, part attraction, part warning. I didn't ask for any of this. Few ever do, she replied. But here we are. The question is, her fingers traced a pattern in the air, leaving trails of soft light. What will you do with your inheritance? A distant chime echoed through the house, and Nana's expression shifted. We have visitors, she said, her tone sharpening, unexpected ones. Through the study window, Craig saw a sleek black vehicle descending from the rain-dark sky. It bore no markings, but something about its design suggested authority and threat. Who are they? He asked. Nana's eyes narrowed, their glow intensifying. People who believe they have a claim to this house, and to me. She turned to him, all playfulness gone from her expression. Now, Craig Foster, you must decide. Will you assert your inheritance, or shall I show them in? The question hung in the air between them as heavy footsteps approached the study door, and Craig realized he was about to discover just how deep this rabbit hole went. The study door burst open before Craig could answer. Two figures entered, a man and woman in sleek graphene suits that seemed to absorb light. Their neural interfaces glowed a threatening red. "Mr. Foster," the man said, his voice carrying artificial authority. "I'm Agent Hale Randall, Stellar Concordat." He flashed a badge that shimmered with quantum authentication markers. "We need to discuss your uncle's estate." Craig noticed how Nana's posture changed, subtle but predatory. She positioned herself slightly between him and the agents, her movements fluid and deliberate. "The estate has been legally transferred," she said, her formal tone carrying an edge. "The house recognizes its new master." Randall's partner stepped forward, her hand hovering near what looked like a weapon. "The Concordat has concerns about certain assets included in the transfer." "Assets?" Craig asked, his mind racing through the implications. The way they looked at Nana made his stomach turn. "Your uncle was involved in matters of planetary security," Randall said. "This property contains sensitive technology that belongs to the house," Nana interrupted. Her skin began to emit a soft, phosphorescent glow. "And the house belongs to Craig Foster." The temperature in the room dropped several degrees. The strange lights behind the walls pulsed faster, matching Craig's accelerating heartbeat. "Mr. Foster," Randall said, ignoring Nana completely, "you don't understand what you've inherited. This facility—" "House," Nana corrected. "This facility is part of a network vital to Earth's protection. We're prepared to offer generous compensation for—" "No." The word left Craig's mouth before he fully processed it. Something about their dismissal of Nana, the way they talked around her like she was furniture, made him angry. "This is private property. If you have concerns, take them up with my lawyers." Randall's expression hardened. "This isn't a negotiation, Mr. Foster. The Concordat—" The lights in the study flared brilliant green. Nana stepped forward, her eyes blazing. "The house has spoken through its master. You are no longer welcome here." The agents reached for their weapons, but before they could draw, the floor beneath them seemed to ripple. In a motion that defied physics, they found themselves suddenly in the foyer, the front door opening behind them. "We'll be in touch," Randall called out as the house ejected them. The door slammed shut with finality. Craig stood in stunned silence for a moment before turning to Nana. "What the hell was that? What's the Stellar Concordat? And how did you—" "The house protects its own," she said simply. Then, with a hint of her earlier playfulness returning, "Though I believe you humans have a saying about questions and dinner?" Craig blinked. "Are you asking me to dinner?" "I'm suggesting that explanations are best served with good food and better wine." She gestured, and a door appeared where there hadn't been one before. Warm light and enticing aromas spilled from beyond it. "Your uncle kept an excellent cellar. Shall we discuss your inheritance properly?" Craig looked at the door, then at the ethereally beautiful alien who had just demonstrated impossible powers, then back at the door. His old life of quantum data analysis seemed very far away. "Lead the way," he said. As he followed Nana through the door, Craig couldn't shake the feeling that his acceptance of dinner was really an acceptance of something much larger. The house thrummed around them, almost like a purr, and in the shadows, reality itself seemed to bend. He was about to discover exactly what it meant to inherit a house that wasn't just a house, and a keeper who was far more than she appeared. Craig woke to find his bedroom had moved again. Where yesterday it overlooked the garden, today's window revealed a vista of impossible geometric patterns stretching into infinity. He'd stopped questioning these things over the past week. "Your morning coffee, sir." Nana materialized beside his bed, offering a steaming cup. She'd taken to wearing more modern clothing, today a simple green dress that complemented her skin tone. "I trust you slept well despite the house's adjustments?" "Better than I should have, considering." He accepted the coffee, careful not to stare too long at the way the light played across her features. "Any sign of our friends from the Concordat?" "Nothing obvious." She perched on the edge of his bed with casual grace. "Though the house detected several scanning attempts overnight, they're growing impatient." Craig sipped his coffee. Perfect, as always. "Then maybe it's time we figure out exactly what they're after." He nodded toward Uncle Marcus's study. "I found something in his journals last night." The study had become their war room of sorts, walls covered in holographic displays of data they'd pieced together. Craig pulled up his latest discovery, a series of coordinates. "Look at this pattern," he said, highlighting points across a global map. Victorian houses, all built within a decade of each other, all with peculiar characteristics according to local records. Nana's luminescent eyes narrowed. "Houses like this one? Houses with keepers?" Craig watched her reaction carefully. "How many of your people are there, Nana?" She stood, moving to trace the pattern of points on the map. "We were called the Lumini once. Before the Concordat, before the houses, we were explorers. We mapped the spaces between spaces." Her finger stopped on their location. "Now we maintain their network, powering their barriers against threats they barely understand." "How many?" 12 houses, 12 families." Her voice carried centuries of contained anger. "They caught us one by one, bound us with contracts written in quantum states and blood." Craig pulled up another file, thermal imaging of the house's substructure. At its heart pulsed a familiar crystalline sphere, larger than the one in the study. "The artifacts. That's what they're really protecting, isn't it?" "Smart boy." Nana's smile carried equal parts pride and predation. "The artifacts channel our energy, create a web between the houses. The Concordat claims it shields Earth from cosmic horrors." She laughed softly. "They never considered we might be the horror they feared." A distant alarm chimed through the house. Craig checked the security feed and cursed. Speaking of the Concordat, 3 black vehicles had breached the property's outer perimeter. Agent Randall stepped from the first, flanked by heavily armed operatives. "Time for another breakfast meeting," Nana said, her skin beginning to glow with suppressed power. "Wait." Craig grabbed her arm, surprised as always by how solid she felt despite her ethereal appearance. "Maybe we should hear them out. If the artifacts really are protecting Earth." "They protect their power over us," she snapped, then softened. "But you're right. Knowledge before action." She pressed something into his hand, a small crystal that hummed against his palm. "Keep this close. Trust nothing they say without confirming it through the house's systems." The front door chimed. Craig took a deep breath, squared his shoulders, and headed downstairs to face the Concordat. Nana followed like a deadly shadow in green silk, her usual playful demeanor replaced by something far more dangerous. Time to learn exactly what his inheritance had gotten him into. Randall stood in the foyer, his stance military rigid. 2 operatives flanked him, their augmented armor humming with contained energy. "Mr. Foster," he said, "we need to talk." "About the artifacts? Or about how your organization enslaved an alien species?" Craig kept his voice level, conscious of Nana's presence behind him. Randall's expression tightened. "So she's told you her version. Did she mention what happened to Shanghai when its artifact failed, or the Jakarta incident?" "I've told him nothing but truth," Nana said, "unlike your Concordat." "Show him." Randall gestured, and one of his operatives projected a hologram into the foyer space. The image showed a city, Shanghai presumably, but something was wrong with the sky above it. Reality itself seemed to tear, revealing things that hurt Craig's eyes to look at. Tentacles of pure geometry writhed through the breach, and wherever they touched— "Enough," Nana said sharply. The hologram flickered out. "That was 3 years ago," Randall said. "The local keeper had sabotaged her artifact. 17 million people died before we could stabilize the breach." He turned to Craig. "The network isn't about control, Mr. Foster. It's about survival." The crystal in Craig's pocket hummed. He squeezed it and data flooded his mind through the house's systems. "You're lying. The Shanghai incident was contained before any casualties. The breach was natural. The keeper sacrificed herself to seal it." Randall's facade cracked slightly. "How did you—" "The house knows," Nana said, her voice carrying a hint of triumph. "It remembers everything the Concordat tries to hide." "Then it should remember why we need the network," Randall countered. "The universe is hostile, Mr. Foster. The barriers between dimensions are weakening. Without the artifacts, without the Keeper's power—" "You mean without our enslavement?" Nana interrupted. Her skin pulsed with inner light. "Tell him the rest, Randall. Tell him about the experiments, the breeding programs, the failed attempts to replicate our power." Craig felt sick. The crystal was feeding him images now. Laboratories, failed hybrids, decades of systematic exploitation. Jesus Christ. "We did what was necessary," Randall said. "Earth needed protection. The Keepers provided it. A fair exchange." "Fair?" Nana laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You trapped us in these houses, bound our children to your service, treated us like batteries for your machines." Her eyes blazed. "Show him what you did to the ones who refused, Randall. Show him how you made us comply." The crystal burned in Craig's hand. More images flooded his mind, darker ones. He staggered and Nana caught him. "That's enough," she said softly, taking the crystal. To Randall, "He's seen what you are now. Leave." "This isn't over," Randall warned. "The artifacts must be protected. If you interfere—" He let the threat hang. "Get out," Craig managed through clenched teeth. "Before I let her show you exactly how much power these houses really contain." The Concordat agents withdrew, but Craig knew this was just the beginning. He turned to Nana, seeing her in a new light, not just beautiful and mysterious, but a survivor of centuries of abuse. "Why didn't you tell me everything from the start?" She touched his cheek, her fingers cool against his skin. "Would you have believed me? Humans prefer comfortable lies to uncomfortable truths." Her expression softened. "But you're different. You question. You see." "I see that we need to do something about this." He gestured to encompass the house, the artifact, everything. But Randall wasn't entirely wrong about the barriers, was he? Something is out there. "Yes," Nana admitted. "But we Lumini faced such things long before humans built their first cities. We don't need to be slaves to be guardians." She stepped closer, her presence intoxicating. "Help me free my people, Craig. Help me show Earth a better way." Craig looked into her luminescent eyes and saw both truth and secrets there. She was offering him a chance to right a historical wrong, but he couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't telling him everything. The house thrummed around them, its walls pulsing with untapped power. Whatever he decided, there would be no going back to his old life now. Over the next few days, Craig immersed himself in his uncle's research, piecing together the true history of the stellar Concordat. Nana helped, though he noticed she carefully steered him away from certain topics. "Your uncle was different," she said one evening as they worked in the study. "He questioned everything, like you." She traced a pattern on an old star chart. "That's why they removed him." Craig looked up from a journal. "Removed him? I thought he died of natural causes." The Concordat's definition of natural is rather broad. Nana's expression darkened. "He discovered something about the artifacts. about their true purpose. After that, she shrugged elegantly. What did he discover? Instead of answering, Nana walked to the window. Outside, the garden had shifted again, now featuring impossible flowers that bloomed with geometric precision. Do you know why they chose Victorian houses, Craig? Architectural preference. The style mirrors structures on our home world. The Concordat thought it would make us comfortable. Her laugh held no humor. As if pretty cages change what they are. She turned back to him. But the design had an unexpected effect. It made the houses more receptive to our power, more malleable. Craig connected the dots. You can control more than just the house's appearance, can't you? Smart boy. She smiled that dangerous smile he'd grown to both love and fear. The artifacts don't just channel our power, they amplify it. Your uncle realized this. He also realized what would happen if all 12 artifacts were deactivated simultaneously. What would happen? Nana's skin glowed brighter. Freedom, power, a chance to reshape the relationship between our peoples. She moved closer, her presence making it hard to think clearly. But it has to be all 12. A single artifact's destruction would only cause local disruption, all of them together. That's why you need me, Craig said, to help coordinate with the other houses. I need you for more than that. Her hand found his, cool fingers intertwining. The houses respond to their owner's blood. The artifacts can only be accessed by those with the right credentials. Craig withdrew his hand. You're manipulating me. Yes. Her honesty surprised him. Just as your people manipulated mine, but my goals align with justice, with freedom. And after, what happens to Earth if we destroy the network? We protect it, as equals, not slaves. She stepped back, giving him space. I've watched you, Craig. You understand right from wrong. Help me free my people, and I promise you won't regret it. Before he could respond, alarms blared throughout the house. Security feeds showed multiple Concordat vehicles approaching, heavily armed. They're not here to talk this time, Craig said, checking the defenses. No. Nana's skin blazed with power. They're here to either secure the artifact or destroy it, and me with it. They can't risk letting knowledge of their crime spread. Craig made his decision. How do we protect the house? We don't. Her smile turned fierce. We show them exactly what a freed Lumini can do. She held out her hand. Trust me? Looking at her glowing form, Craig realized he did trust her. Maybe not completely, but enough to take this leap. He took her hand. The house responded instantly, reality bending around them as they prepared to face the Concordat's assault. Whatever happened next would change everything, for them, for Earth, and for the future of human-Lumini relations. The Concordat's assault began with an EMP burst that should have disabled the house's defenses. Instead, the pulse twisted in on itself, absorbed by walls that rippled like liquid crystal. The benefits of non-human technology, Nana said, her voice echoing through rooms that shifted and flowed around them. Shall we show them what else we can do? Craig worked at the house's control interface, his fingers dancing through holographic displays. Multiple breaching points. They're trying to surround us. Let them come. Nana's body was pure light now, her human form barely containing the power within. The house remembers old defenses. The first team breached through the conservatory. The glass structure twisted, its geometric patterns turning predatory. Vines of crystalline light entangled the intruders, disarming them with surgical precision. Craig! Randall's voice boomed through the house's communication system. You're making a mistake. Whatever she's promised you, it's a lie. Like the lies about Shanghai? Craig activated another defense protocol. Or about what you did to the first generation of keepers. A second team breached through the basement. The house's foundations rippled, and the team found themselves trapped in a maze of ever-shifting corridors. The artifacts protect reality itself, Randall insisted. Without the network. Without the network, we protect ourselves, Nana interrupted. Her voice resonated with power. As we did before your kind bound us. Craig spotted Randall himself leading a team through the front entrance. The agent carried something that made the crystal in Craig's pocket vibrate painfully. Anti-Lumini technology, Nana hissed. They're prepared to kill me rather than risk losing control. Not happening. Craig interfaced directly with the house's systems, letting its alien architecture flow through his mind. Remember what you said about the owner's blood? Nana's eyes widened. Craig, don't. He pressed his palm against the nearest wall, letting centuries of inherited connection flood through him. The house responded like a living thing, its very structure becoming an extension of his will. Randall's team found themselves suddenly outside the property line, their weapons transformed into abstract sculptures of light and metal. This isn't over, Randall shouted as his teams retreated. The other houses are already being secured. You've chosen the wrong side, Foster. When the last concorded agent left the property, Craig collapsed. The power drain left him shaking, his vision blurring. Nana caught him, her touch both cooling and energizing. You shouldn't have done that. The house connection, it changes you. Had to. He managed a weak smile. Couldn't let them hurt you. She studied him with those luminescent eyes. You're either the most foolish human I've met or the wisest. Her expression softened. Perhaps both. What now? Now? She helped him stand. Now we prepare. Randall will return with worse than weapons, and we need to contact the other houses before the Concordat can lock them down. She touched his cheek. Are you ready for what that means? Craig looked around at the house, his house, with its impossible geometry and ancient power. He thought of the other keepers trapped in their Victorian prisons, of the Concordat's lies and crimes, of Nana, both captor and captive, manipulator and truth-teller. Ready as I'll ever be. She smiled, and for once he saw no hidden meanings in it. Then let's go save the world, your way and mine. Outside, storm clouds gathered over Seattle, their patterns too regular to be natural. The house hummed with potential energy, its walls rippling with anticipation of the battle to come. Act 2 had ended. The real war was about to begin. Thunder cracked across Seattle's sky in perfect hexagonal patterns. Craig watched from his study window as reality itself seemed to bend around the property lines, the Concordat's forces gathering beyond the distortion field. Beautiful, isn't it? Nana materialized beside him, her jade skin reflecting the lightning's geometric dance. When our power builds, it affects local space-time. The human's primitive instruments can't even detect half the changes. Something in her tone made Craig turn. The usual playful glint in her luminescent eyes had been replaced by something older, hungrier. You're enjoying this. Shouldn't I? She traced patterns on the window, leaving trails of light. For the first time in centuries, we're close to freedom. The other houses are responding to our signal. When all 12 artifacts destabilize simultaneously. Her smile turned predatory. About that. Craig pulled up Uncle Marcus's final journal entry on the holographic display. You never explained exactly what happens when the network fails. What kind of energy are we talking about? Nana's reflection in the window flickered. Enough to restore what was taken from us, to remake this world into something better. Better for whom? Before she could answer, the house's defenses pinged. Multiple breach attempts at once, far more sophisticated than the last attack. The walls rippled with contained power. They're getting creative, Nana observed. Quantum tunneling, phase disruption. Oh, that's new. She cocked her head at a particular reading. They're trying to recreate Lumini energy signatures. Craig accessed the security feeds. Concordant forces had surrounded the property with devices that pulsed with familiar green light. They're using harvested energy from the other keepers. Stolen power, Nana corrected sharply. Her form blazed brighter. They dare use our own essence against us? The house groaned as foreign energy pressed against its barriers. Craig felt the strain through his blood connection to the structure, like pressure building behind his eyes. We need to coordinate with the other houses now, Nana said, before they can lock down more artifacts. She turned to him, power crackling around her form. Are you ready to make history, Craig Foster? But Craig was already deep in his uncle's notes, a terrible suspicion forming. The equations, the power calculations, the warnings about resonance effects. What aren't you telling me about the network's destruction? He asked quietly. Nana's smile faltered for just a moment. Does it matter? Freedom has a price. It matters. Craig pulled up a simulation based on Marcus's data. The energy release wouldn't just restore your people. It would reshape reality itself. Billions could die in the transition. Some would survive, the worthy ones, those who never supported our enslavement. She reached for him. You would be among them, Craig. I would protect you. The house shuddered under another assault. In that moment of clarity, Craig saw everything. The manipulation, the half-truths, the careful nudging toward catastrophe. But he also saw something else in Nana's eyes. Genuine pain, genuine caring, genuine conflict. There has to be another way, he said, turning back to his uncle's research with renewed purpose. One that doesn't trade one crime for another. The house's outer barriers began to crack under the Concordats' assault. Reality flickered at the edges, showing glimpses of what lay beyond normal space, geometric patterns that hurt the mind to witness. We're out of time, Nana said. Her form shifted between solid and light, power barely contained. The artifact network is destabilizing if we don't coordinate the release. Look at this. Craig highlighted a section of Marcus's notes. He found something in the original binding contracts, a loophole. Another barrier fell. The house compensated by folding space around itself, but Craig felt the strain through his connection. Outside, Randall's forces pressed closer with their stolen Lumini energy. The contracts were written in quantum states, Craig continued, typing frantically. But they never accounted for willing participation from both sides, a voluntary bond. No. Nana's voice carried centuries of anger. We will not be bound again. Not bound, partnered. Craig pulled up the critical equation. The artifacts don't need slaves, Nana. They need synthesis, balance between human and Lumini energy. The house shook. Through the windows, Craig saw Randall directing teams with devices that pulsed an sickly green light, corrupted Lumini power torn from other keepers. Your uncle tried to reshape the contracts, Nana said softly. That's why they killed him. He didn't have time to finish the work. Craig's fingers flew over the holographic controls, but he left us everything we need. We can rewrite the fundamental parameters, create a true partnership. At what cost? My life force bound to yours, permanently. He met her luminescent gaze. No more keeper, no more master, just balance. Something complex passed through Nana's expression. You would sacrifice your independence, your normal human life. Normal is overrated. Despite everything, Craig managed to smile. Besides, you've kind of grown on me. Another barrier fell. The house's walls rippled like liquid crystal, struggling to maintain coherence. They're almost through, Nana warned. If we're going to do this. Your choice, Craig said. Freedom through destruction or freedom through change? Nana stared at him for a long moment, power crackling around her form. Then she laughed, not her usual calculated sound, but something genuine and almost human. You impossible man. She moved closer, her energy field embracing him. You actually mean it, don't you? Every word. Then let's rewrite some contracts. The house's central chamber materialized around them as reality folded inward. The artifact hung suspended in a column of light, its crystalline surface rippling with contained power. The binding must be precise, Nana said, her form now pure energy with only hints of her humanoid shape. One mistake and the backlash will destroy us both. Craig accessed the house's systems through his blood connection, letting the alien architecture flow through his mind. Marcus's equations scrolled across his vision in streams of quantum data. Randall's almost through, he noted, watching the external feeds. We'll have company soon. Then, we should give them a proper welcome. Nana's energy merged with the house's systems, transforming the surrounding chamber into a maze of shifting geometry. Ready? Craig placed his hand on the artifact. Its surface was both burning hot and impossibly cold, singing to his blood with ancient power. Ready. They began the transformation. Craig fed Marcus's equations into the artifact while Nana channeled her essence through the crystal matrix. The house groaned around them as reality itself began to bend. An explosion rocked the foundation. Randall's forces had breached the final barrier. Don't stop, Nana commanded as Craig's concentration wavered. The binding is critical now. Footsteps echoed through twisted corridors. Craig heard Randall shouting orders, the sound distorting through layers of warped space. The artifact pulsed faster as the new parameters took hold. Craig felt his life force merging with the crystal lattice, intertwining with Nana's essence. The sensation was indescribable, like being unmade and remade with each heartbeat. Almost there, he gasped. Just need to stabilize the... Randall burst into the chamber, wielding a device that crackled with stolen lumini power. Step away from the artifact, Foster. You're too late. Nana's voice echoed from everywhere at once. The old contracts are being rewritten. You'll destroy everything. Randall aimed his weapon at the artifact. The network must be preserved. The network will survive, Craig said through gritted teeth. Just not as you knew it. The artifact flared with blinding light. Craig felt the final connection snap into place as his consciousness merged with Nana's through the crystal matrix. In that moment, he understood everything. Her pain, her hope, her carefully hidden love for the impossible human who offered partnership instead of dominance. The chamber erupted in pure energy. When the light faded, the chamber had transformed. Crystalline growths covered the walls in fractal patterns, pulsing with a soft green glow that matched Nana's skin tone. The artifact still floated in its column of light, but its surface now rippled with intertwined streams of human red and lumini green energy. Randall lay unconscious near the entrance, his weapon reduced to abstract sculpture. Through the house's enhanced sensors, Craig could feel similar transformations occurring at other sites across the globe, the network reshaping itself around new parameters of willing partnership. Well, Nana's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. That was dramatic. Craig laughed weakly, struggling to process his new awareness. He could feel her presence in his mind, distinct but connected, like two stars orbiting a common center. How are you feeling? Her form coalesced beside him, still glowing but more solid than before. Free, bound, both at once. She touched his cheek, her fingers carrying a charge that resonated with his altered biology. You're different now. Part of you has become like us. Part of you has become like me too, he noted, seeing the subtle changes in her energy patterns. I can feel the whole network, all the houses, all the keepers. Partners now, not keepers. Nana's expression turned thoughtful. The others are responding to the change. Some are uncertain. Can't blame them. Craig stood shakily, adjusting to his enhanced perceptions. Generations of slavery don't get erased by one transformation. No, she agreed, but it's a start. She glanced at Randall's unconscious form. The Concordat will adapt or collapse. Either way, they no longer control us. What happens now? Nana's smile carried new warmth. Still dangerous, but no longer predatory. That depends. The network is stable, but Earth. There will be questions, investigations, politics. She held out her hand. We could stay, help manage the transition, or, I know a place, a colony world where the barriers between dimensions are naturally thin. No need for artifacts or contracts. Her luminescent eyes met his. Just space to build something new, something ours. Craig looked around the transformed chamber, feeling the pulse of the network through his enhanced senses. The house had become a true fusion of human and Lumini architecture, beautiful in its impossibility. Will the others be okay if we leave? They'll find their own paths. Nana's form flickered with amusement. Besides, someone needs to test if this new partnership can work on a smaller scale, away from Earth's complications. Craig took her hand, feeling energy spark between them. Lead the way. The house folded space around them one final time, transforming the chamber into a gateway to somewhere else. Through it, Craig glimpsed alien skies and geometric mountains that shouldn't exist. Last chance to back out, Nana teased. Sure you want to run away with an alien who tried to destroy the world? Pretty sure. He squeezed her hand. Though we should probably work on your problem-solving methods. Her laugh echoed through dimensions as they stepped through the portal together, leaving Earth and its complexities behind. The house sealed itself behind them, settling into its new role as one node in a network of willing partners rather than slaves and masters. Whether their relationship was love or something stranger didn't matter anymore. They had written their own contract in blood and light and choice. The future would be whatever they made of it. Epilogue. New Horizons. 6 months after their departure from Earth, Craig stood on the balcony of their new home, a structure that blended Victorian architecture with impossible Lumini geometry. The alien sky above rippled with aurora-like patterns, dimensional barriers naturally thin enough to see the spaces between spaces. Latest report from Earth, Nana said, materializing beside him. Her form had stabilized into something between human and pure energy. Still jade-skinned and beautiful, but now with patterns of light that shifted beneath her surface. The transition is proceeding better than expected. Craig smiled. Marcus would have been proud. His research made it all possible. The Concordat's archives confirmed what we suspected, Nana continued. They didn't kill him directly. He sacrificed himself testing the first version of the binding transformation. His notes saved countless lives. And the other houses? Thriving under the new arrangement. 3 pairs have already joined us here on Haven. The rest chose to stay on Earth as ambassadors. She leaned against him, her energy harmonizing with his altered biology. The Concordat has been disbanded. Their leadership is facing trial for crimes against sentient beings. Craig nodded, feeling the distant pulse of the transformed network through their shared connection. And the cosmic horrors they were so worried about? Still out there. Nana gestured at the geometric patterns in the sky. But we face them together now. Humans and Lumini as equals. Our combined power is stronger than anything they achieved through force. Speaking of combined power, Craig turned to her with a grin. Ready to try that dimensional folding technique again? Last time only caused a minor reality quake. Nana laughed, a sound that still carried centuries of knowledge but now held genuine joy. You're getting better at manipulating space-time, though the neighbors complained about their garden ending up in yesterday. They'll adjust. Everyone here is a little strange. He gestured at their community, a growing collection of impossible houses inhabited by other human lumini pairs who'd chosen to start fresh on Haven. Strange is relative. Nana's form flickered playfully. I seem to recall a certain quantum data analyst who thought Victorian houses shouldn't move. I was young and naive then. That was 6 months ago. Like I said, young and naive. He pulled her close, feeling the familiar resonance between them. Their bond had evolved beyond the initial transformation, becoming something unique in human or lumini experience. Not quite love in the conventional sense, but deeper in its own way. "No regrets?" she asked, an echo of old uncertainty in her voice. "About running away to an alien world with a reformed world destroyer?" Craig pretended to think about it. "Well, the commute to my old job would be hell." Nana elbowed him with a tendril of energy. "Be serious." "I am." He turned to face her fully. "We did the right thing. We found a better way, and whatever comes next." He gestured at their impossible house, the alien sky, the community they were building. "We face it together." The house hummed in agreement, its structure reflecting their shared contentment. Above them, the thin dimensional barriers rippled with new patterns, beautiful rather than threatening now that they understood how to work with them rather than against them. They had rewritten more than just contracts. They had rewritten the story of two species, proving that partnership could overcome centuries of fear and control. Their bond might have started in manipulation and secrets, but it had grown into something true. As Haven's binary sun set, painting the geometric mountains in impossible colors, Craig and Nana began their evening ritual of reality-shaping practice. Their house shifted and flowed around them, a testament to what could be achieved when different worlds came together in harmony. The future stretched before them, full of possibilities that neither human nor lumini could have imagined alone. The end. Dear listener, if you've made it this far without reality warping around you or a mysterious green-skinned keeper appearing in your house, congratulations. You're either very lucky or your local Victorian mansion is better at keeping secrets than most. Like Craig discovering his uncle's journals, you've followed this strange tale through quantum entanglements of plot and dimensional barriers of prose. I hope the story resonated with you somewhere between The Shape of Water and Doctor Who's TARDIS human romance, but with fewer fish people and more geometry-bending houses. For those wondering, no, I don't have a lumini living in my house, though that would explain why my coffee is always mysteriously perfect and my rooms occasionally rearrange themselves when I'm not looking. To everyone who stuck around for this interdimensional love story, may your inherited houses come with interesting aliens, and may your cosmic horror always be balanced with a touch of romance. Just remember, if a beautiful green woman offers to help you rewrite reality, make sure to read the quantum fine print. Keep watching the skies, especially if they start forming hexagonal patterns. The author. P.S. The Stellar Concordat would like me to remind you that this is all strictly fictional, but they would say that, wouldn't they?